A very good morning to you. Welcome to Citizen TV's special segment on the M-Pesa Foundation. As M-Pesa turns 18, the foundation turns 15. And I'm joined in studio by trustees of the foundation. Ladies first, Patricia Idao.
Yes,
good to have you this morning, as well as Michael Joseph. I told him earlier he needs no introduction. How do you feel, before we get into the M-Pesa Foundation and the 15 years, M-Pesa being 18, your baby has attained the age of majority. What does that feel like?
Oh, it's great. It's a great feeling, but it's amazing. It seemed like just the other day that we launched it, And I think it's an amazing feeling just to consider that we were the first in the world to do it, and it's still very proud.
Did you think it would be so widely adopted? To be honest, I hardly carry cash anymore.
I never thought it would be so, but there's some people who claim they did know it would be so big, but I don't think so. I think we didn't know it would be so big when we started. Really, we didn't.
You did?
We did not know.
All right. So this is sort of like a proud papa moment for you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Great.
It's great to be part of it still.
Awesome. All right. So, Patricia, I don't know whether to direct this one to Michael or yourself, but what inspired the M-Pesa Foundation?
My goodness. I mean, here you are with this incredible product, which is with the intention of touching so many people as it started. And then, of course, there's the conversation that we'd had some experience with the Safaricom Foundation, which had been there 7 years before. So I think for us, it was that, for M-Pesa, I think what brought it up is how do you continue to touch? M-Pesa was driving the inclusion, the money, but how then do you touch communities? How do you touch people? How do you touch lives? And I think that's some of how it was born. But Michael could build on a little bit.
I think really it's interesting how it was born because as I said, we never expected M-Pesa to be so big. Okay, so when we started out, there were no regulations around M-Pesa. So we worked in partnership with the central bank. That was the big thing, and thanks to the then people who worked at this. There wasn't even a governor at the time. There was an acting governor. And so in conjunction with them, we came up with some sort of ideas and concepts how we should run M-Pesa. And one of them was, what do you do? How do you safeguard the customer's money when they put money into the M-Pesa system? How do you make sure that money is safe? And so I think Professor Njuguna then came on board, and he said that what we should do is form a trust, a separate trust where all that money goes into a trust. So it's not touched by Safaricom and completely, not even in Safaricom's books. In fact, the money was actually managed out of the Netherlands. Okay. And then we said, well, okay, there's money in this account overnight. It will earn some interest overnight. What do you do with this interest? And so the idea was, well, it will be just enough to pay for the bank fees and the audit fees and these kind of things. It wouldn't be much, so that's what we did. But then as M-Pesa grew and as it became more popular, this money, overnight money, became bigger and bigger. So what do you do with this? And that's when we came up with the idea, as Patricia said, is what do we do? So we decided to form the M-Pesa Foundation. But it was different from the Safari. You had to distinguish it from the Safaricom Foundation because we couldn't sort of promote Safaricom. It was purely M-Pesa money. So it was decided that M-Pesa Foundation would focus on capital projects that would benefit the most amount of people for the longest possible time. And that was the origins of the M-Pesa Foundation.
Incredible.
And we never knew that it would be so big. In fact, even that the interest would be so big, And still to this day, as Patricia will know, we actually spend a lot of money on building, rebuilding at any one time, we may be rebuilding 40 to 50 primary schools. So education is our prime focus. We're building TVETs. We're putting labs into schools. We're doing health camps, many health initiatives. On conservation, we fenced we provided the money to fence the Aberdares. We're fencing now the Kakamega Forest. We fenced the Buru Forest. That is in conservation. So, and music. So we do many things that would benefit the most amount of people for the longest possible time.
So, but I'll touch also a little bit on the health. Because, again, one of the biggest challenges in this country, as you know, is the health aspect. And so one of the other things that M-Pesa recognize is when you look at access to health, especially when you talk about maternal, newborn, adolescent, That, again, is a big challenge in this. And if you're in any community and you're not touching and you're not helping and supporting that, then again, what are we doing? So again, a big initiative for us is around that. So to the same way we're touching a lot through the education system, we're trying to impact and make sure we're developing infrastructure for maternal health care, for newborn. We have programs where you're just doing things around even dignity, fistula program. When we talk about the health, the medical camps that we're doing around the country now, because how many people have access to even simple quality understanding of how do I feel, how am I? So these medical camps that we're doing bi-weekly, and now we're ramping it up as we celebrate 15 years, is making sure in every county across the country, we have a chance for someone to come and have a free medical check, you know, and just get a test on how they are from a health and well-being point of view.
But on the education, I think it's really important, you know, in the education. So we want to do something in education. So we've done many projects in schools, Nairobi High School, the Staheri Girls, many other programs. But in the last 3 years, what we now focused on is the primary schools. Because if you look at the number of primary schools in Kenya, there are thousands of primary schools, or maybe 100,000, I'm not sure. Because, you know, primary schools are designed for kids, the young kids, and they normally have to walk to school. And so there's lots and lots of primary schools all over the country. But they're in very dilapidated conditions, most of them, almost all of them. And so we're rebuilding primary schools across the country. And to a certain standard, if you go to any of our primary schools that have been rehabilitated, they all look the same and the same quality of construction. And then I think one of the proud things that we're about in education is the M-Pesa Academy. And this was started about 7 years ago now. Bob Collymore, myself, decided to do, how can we change the leadership skills of the future? How do we embrace or enhance the leadership skills of our future leaders of Kenya? How do we do this kind of thing? So we decided to establish an academy, a high school academy, but not just a high school, but an academy that focuses on leadership, integrity, skills for the future leaders of Kenya. It's a wonderful school. It only takes 2 kids from every county, but from a very difficult background, but who have the spark of initiative. In fact, some of our kids are graduating now in America, in a university like Yale, and working in America now. And the idea is that they will come back to Kenya as the future leaders. It's a fantastic initiative.
It is, and I have a lot of follow-up questions on that, but I'll put a pin on that. Health, Patricia, if I can take you back there. You have, as I understand it, focused, first of all, the areas the foundation is quote-unquote investing in the future, right? They're informed by they're in line with the Sustainable Development Goals. So where health is concerned, you look at reproductive health, maternal health. Why is that?
I mean, I guess because that is the future. Here we are in the year of our Lord, 2025, in a country that's blessed with so many resources. How can we still have women having a challenge to give birth? How could we have challenges around infant mortality? And I think that's just a question you reflect on and you ask yourself, is it possible that we could do that? And that can be. And that is why we feel focusing on that, because again, that's where growth comes from, isn't it? You start, if you don't support women and that whole process, then how are you going to build future generations? So part of the infrastructure support, for example, is recognizing that across the country, if you go across the country, and now I've been to a number of the counties that we're supporting, you find that women struggle, first of all, to find a healthcare facility. So when you look at the next project we'll be doing called the M-Mama project, which is trying to figure out how you can link community transport to help women safely get to a place where they can give birth.
So you just repeat that, what mama?
M-Mama.
M-Mama.
Yes, okay. M-Mama. But then when you look at the more fundamental ones that we built, is looking and saying, because our focus is on infrastructure support, many, many hospitals across the country do not have a newborn unit, right? So if you have a child which has even a slight problem, that child is probably not going to survive. So we are also focusing on building actually proper maternity units with a proper newborn equipped unit which has a, a NATO, with a support system for children who need that particular support. And that, again, is a big focus for us, because that is how you grow a nation from many ways, if you're able to support safe birth and safe growth of children.
So you've had an impact in what, 30 counties?
In 30 counties so far. And the intention is to make sure we go through all the, we get to all the counties to make sure every single county has a newborn unit with the right support. Yeah,
but there's also telemedicine, right?
Pediatric. And telemedicine care is another one, because if you're, somewhere where there's no access to a hospital, how do you get your child checked? So in conjunction with Gertrude's Hospital, again, we're technology. I mean, M-Pesa has really built a lot around technology. So how do you build that? And so that, again, with Gertrude's, we're able to do telemedicine, where, you just put the unit somewhere and that child can get access to a proper pediatrician remotely in places where there's no access to a hospital or proper pediatric care. Yeah.
All right. So I'll come back to you so you can tell us how you decide on what projects and go where as well. But first, back to education. You were talking about rehabilitation of primary schools, and you mentioned a figure of 40 to 50 primary.
Maybe many more. I don't know the exact figure, but my team can tell you. But I know we just approved last week 40 schools, 40 new schools to be done.
For rehabilitation.
Yeah, for rehabilitation.
All right, so you're going in where there's already some infrastructure and improving it.
Yes.
Yeah, and we do it with the county, together with the county. And everything is done together with the local authority, whoever the local authority may be. And we go in, we do an assessment to see what's required, and then we do the necessary. I have to rebuild the classrooms, the toilets, maybe even the accommodation. So it's different for each school, different requirement for each school, depending on where they are and what kind of state they're in.
So do people send in applications?
Yeah, we get hundreds of applications. Hundreds of applications. But primary school is fairly simple. We get hundreds of applications, and we try to do as many as we possibly can. And we also manage the process, because we want to obviously make sure that the money is well spent. And it's very easy for this kind of money to go, to be misspent. So it comes to us. We have a big team that screen the applications, make sure that there's a genuine, visit the site, and then it comes to the trustees for approval.
And the M-Pesa Academy, M-Pesa Foundation Academy. So you've sort of explained what the inspiration behind it was. You, Bob Collin, was saying, about leadership, raising the next generation of leaders. Now they're the present generation of leaders, because you're telling us some of them are in Yale. So how do you select the children who get to attend the academy, and what system is it?
It's a very big, we get about 7,000 applications every year for entry into the school, and we vet them all. They are written applications. People have to apply online. They apply online also. They go to our Safaricom shops. They can get a form there, and then they vet it, and then they have to write an essay, and then we go to each of those homes. We go through a vetting process, then we select who we're going to look at, and then we go to each of the homes and we check the parents, the family. Are they really poor? What is their circumstance? And then we also have an interview with the child who's coming to school. We're looking for future leaders. We're not looking for mediocre people. We're looking for people who have the spark of leadership, and that's how we choose them. So we only choose 94 every year, and we add a few more for disabled children. So we have children with wheelchairs, we have blind children, and so on.
All right.
And I think there's also a need to make sure you're accessing all counties, So there's that equity aspect of it, so that there isn't a concentration of one part of the country, and make sure we have, we're touching everybody from there.
But it's an amazing experience, actually, if you go to the academy. I mean, of course, we started it, so we're very happy to be part of it. But when you go there and you see these kids and you meet these kids and you look at what they're doing today from what they were doing a few years ago. I mean, we have kids, if we enter a sporting competition, we always 1, 2, or 3. We're never lower than that. And yet they don't come from a sporting background. We have kids who are winning swimming galas and have never swum in their lives. So it's amazing.
That's incredible.
Yeah, this spark. You just add a little bit of thing and you just have this child to grow. So the potential is there. I mean, it's not just, unfortunately, we only can take so many kids. we can only take 100 or so every year. So, but it's just amazing the potential that's there for this country. And it's very proud. You go there, and I mean, they do a concert every year. They do a concert which is amazing. I mean, I couldn't believe it. When I went there, I couldn't believe it. It's very much a very proud thing for me.
Moving, very inspirational. But what system is it? Is it, we have we had the 844. Then,
okay, we had lots.
Then
we've done the debate.
Yes.
Oh
what?
We started out. We started. Look, we are not educationalists, so we made quite a lot of mistakes. I must admit, in the beginning. More than I would like to have made, but we did make quite a few mistakes in the beginning. So we started 844. And then one day I went to the school and I went into the laboratory. I was into the classroom and I was watching them. And I was amazed. I was taught like that when I was a kid 100 years ago. I was taught like that. I said, no way, this is not correct. So we changed the system and we went to the IB system. So we changed the whole school to be in the IB system. A massive change. But now we're going to follow the CBC curriculum. So we're still following the IB in parallel, but we'll phase it out over the next few years and go to the CBC system. But what we try to do is not so much the education system, okay? It's a high school.
And leaders.
We want to create leaders. So we need to... People need, you need to just have people that will learn almost by themselves. That's what we're trying to create. Remember, we're trying to create the future president of this country. That's what we're trying to create. And one of the kids, by the way, in our first year, she said when the president went to one of the graduation ceremonies, and one of the kids said, I want to be the next Chief Justice of Kenya.
Oh, wow.
And she's in law school at the moment in the US.
Incredible.
Incredible.
Which president, Uhuru?
Yes, Uhuru.
So let me ask this. So how does the leadership aspect come in? Because I might be tempted to it. Is it a master class?
There's lots of extracurricular activity. That's where it comes from. They have business schools. They have their own little business achievements. Each class creates a business. They create their own businesses. It's encouraged to have this through extracurricular activities. And even how they live in their dormitories, where they live in houses. They don't live in dormitories. It's a wonderful place. I encourage you to go there.
And I think it's a mindset, because I think we always said, even when we looked at when you're trying to create leaders of the future, it's a question of how you're creating them, how you encourage them to think differently. Because, education is just a foundation, it just gives you a tool set for all intents and purposes. The issue around it, the best kind of education is one that opens your mind to every possibility. So what the academy sets out to do is, what are the possibilities? What is available out there, and making sure there's access to that. That's why when you go there, if it's art, if it's music, if it's sport, if it's business, creating businesses, all those opportunities are available for you, so that you can expand your thinking and belief that I can actually do that. And that's the kind of environment that is created. Not necessarily academic, pass this exam, do this. No, it's really creating that lateral thinker who can become a leader of the future.
And so aside from health, education, there's also water, improving access to water. They say water is life, conservation. But where water is concerned and how you decide how to go about it. Is there community involvement? Do you go to the communities? How do you get a sense of what is needed? Is it through the applications? How does that work?
Generally, community, excuse me, you take it.
No problem.
So I think when you look at water, yes, you could do that. But the bigger thing is, remember, we look at impact, right? Bigger impact, as opposed to little community things that, don't create that scale. So when you look at we call it the Nyalani Integrated Water Project, that is a project that serves a broader group of people. I think it's 90,000 people in that community around the Kwale, in Kwale County. So I think what we try and do with that is not do, one little borehole, which is going to just impact a little family of 100. How do you create projects like that, which then can impact a whole, 100,000, a bigger community? Because that actually is where then you make a difference.
But generally our projects come to us from communities, and then we do them in partnership with the community, other NGOs possibly that working in that area. I mean, we built, as Patricia said, we built dams. We sometimes do boreholes. It's not. We try not to have a very strict sort of defined. This is the only thing you can apply for. You know, what is the need? Okay, we have 4 or 5 broad focuses: music, education, culture, education, health, conservation. But in those categories, we try to have an open mind. You know, we built, as an example, in conservation, the roan antelope in Western Kenya are very rare. So we help to restocking and rebuilding that roan antelope family in Western Kenya, in Ruma National Park. That's together with KWS now. So we built some stockades there. We brought in some roan antelope there, and we're helping them to start to breed. So that's another project that we're involved with. It's in Kakamega Forest, for instance, which is a beautiful forest. We want to fence it to protect it for the future. So it's different. It depends on the need and what can we do. I mean, I think the trustees have as you would probably ask us, how do we approve things? We have a huge stack we meet every 3 months or so. Now we probably meet every 2 months and go through the applications and which ones we want to do.
Do you all sort of have your own pet projects, things that are particularly close to your heart?
Everybody has something that they are drawn to. I think for me, for example, is health, maternal health care, newborn. That is where my heart calls me, and the fistula programs that we drive. So I think what M-Pesa, with those pillars that we have, education, health, environment, and water, we try and make sure in driving them and in whatever we do, they're community-based, and it's not us deciding for you what's going to impact you. It's recognizing what are the things that are really going to make an impact to those communities, to the lives of those people. The same way when you look at M-Pesa. M-Pesa doesn't limit who it touches these days. M-Pesa touches everybody. And so with the foundation, what we're trying to do is mirror that, yes, from an impact perspective in those particular areas that we've selected.
So in terms of sustainability, you've explained sort of how you got started. You had this money in a trust and it generated interest, and initially that was sufficient for auditing bank fees. But eventually, given the popularity, you had enough money to invest in the M-Pesa Foundation. So how do you keep it going?
Well, look, as long as M-Pesa goes, it'll go. But I think, it's important to note it is not the subscribers' money that we are using. It's the interest. Only the interest. Because this is the big fundamental of M-Pesa, is the money that's in the M-Pesa system is protected. It's invested by the M-Pesa holding company, the trustees of M-Pesa holding company, that's invested. It's just the interest that we are using. It will go as long as we are allowed to go on with it, and as long as M-Pesa works, it will go on. We don't spend all the money every year. Okay, we always leave behind a reserve, and our goal is not to spend money. Our goal is to see what capital projects we can do, and there's of course there's no limit. But we need to make sure it's spent wisely. Because you have this luxury of this money, you need to make sure that it's spent extremely wisely. It can be audited, and we have a team of people that just make sure that happens. And we need to make sure that also we're always doing it for the right reasons. As you asked, do we have pet projects? Because we have this, and because it's well known, we have lots of people that seem to think that we're sort of the piggy bank of the country. So let's take this money and let's spend it on some other project that we must make sure because of the law. The law is very clear. We are a charitable institution, and so we are subject to those laws to protect us from a taxation point of view. So it's very strict guidelines from the legal point of view. We need to make sure that we keep within those guidelines of what we spend our money on. Our money must be spent on basically alleviating poverty. That's what we must make sure. So building primary schools or enhancing primary schools, health, all of this adds to that broad goal of alleviating poverty in the country.
So how do you gauge the impact of these projects? Because I'm guessing there are lessons to be learned there.
Well, I mean, if I speak to, for example, health is very easy to gauge. You can go into a county and measure how many, what's the mortality rate before the programs we put in and after we come in. So that for me is a straight line measure of the impact. From an education, I guess, is when you start to see the performance of those counties and that particular school in terms of how the students are basically doing. And I don't know, I mean...
we did a project in Samburu County, SDGs, so to reduce infant mortality. It was one of our goals. It was some time ago we did this project in Samburu. It was together with the Ministry of Health, and I can't remember the other charity that we worked with, NGO we worked with. But we built clinics all across Samburu. Now remember, in the Samburu mentality, women give birth at home. And the sometimes not very salutary conditions. And so in order to limit or to reduce infant mortality, we encouraged women to come and give birth in the clinics. So we had a whole program for a whole 2-3 years of encouraging first women to come, because that's the first thing to overcome that of not giving birth at home. So we encouraged them to come to prenatal clinics. We built all these clinics across the country, and in Samburu County rather, and then we encouraged them to give birth there. We reduced the infant mortality by half in that time.
Wow.
So it was part of the SDG goals, one of the SDG goals. And so we can measure it. And we did, and then we took that program from Samburu and we took it to other counties in northern Kenya. The same program, clinics, education, what do you call it, workers on the ground, going to talk to mothers who are pregnant, saying, we encouraged them, we gave them gifts, come into the clinic, come and get prenatal and then postnatal care.
And you did ask, how do we select the counties? We look at which are the counties with the biggest challenge on mortality rate, and that's how we start. So when we look at the choices we have now, from Samburu to Homa Bay to Narok, it's basically asking which are the counties with the highest mortality rate. And therefore, we're able then to go in and say, how do we turn that? How do we change that?
Michael Joseph, you talked about how you don't spend all the money, you have a reserve. How do you determine, this year, this is the amount of money we're working with?
Well, we have a budget. We have a budget. We get allocated. So so how it works, M-Pesa Holding Company is the trust company that looks after the money. Okay, and every year we apply to the M-Pesa Holding Company for funds to be allocated to the M-Pesa Foundation. We have a certain amount that we allocate to the M-Pesa Academy, because we know what that costs, because we have the running costs and the bursaries for university and so on. And then we apply for a certain amount for every year. That's our budget that we have for the year. So every year we do this. We go, not we, the staff do that, and then we apply for this money. And then the way that the new laws work, we need to spend that money. If you don't spend that money, then you think that you don't really need this anymore. So we need to be very careful how we do it. We can spend all the money for sure. It's can we manage the process effectively? We can do 100 schools, but do we have the capacity to manage the program? So we need to do it carefully. My real concern always has been, I was the first chairman of this foundation, is to make sure that we can be, it's transparent and people can come and have, people can look at it.
Auditable.
And also,
people can see.
It can stand public scrutiny. Because remember whose money we are using here. In the end. It's public's money. The interest, okay? So it must stand scrutiny. So we must do everything we do carefully. Okay, of course, some things happen at the edges that you can't control every time, Some contractor does stupid things. But in general, that's our main focus, is can it stand scrutiny, what we do? It's not just giving money away. And we don't give money, by the way. We don't give money.
We manage.
We go and do projects.
And manage the process.
And they must be capital projects. We don't fund soccer tournaments. Okay, let me say that right now. We don't like Safaricom funds soccer tournaments and all that. We don't do that kind of thing.
All right. So, Patricia, it's been 15 years of the foundation, M-Pesa Foundation. What next?
Well, we're hoping more than another 15 years, if the circumstances allow and everything else. But I think for me, over the next 15 years, a real legacy of this foundation will be any person, any Kenyan across the country cannot speak to just how M-Pesa, the product, M-Pesa, the money aspect has touched their lives, but how the foundation has changed the community, not just the community in which they live. And I think for me that is going to be a real testament of the impact of the foundation. So when it comes to students, I mean, when we talk about education, when we build these schools, I don't know if you've been around the country, and this for me is one of the most telling things and the biggest joy that I see when we do the schools. Do you know, many schools don't even have a basic thing like toilets, right? And so when you go to these schools and then see the structure, the classroom, and then those facilities, for me, it just improves everything. It improves even the dignity of life. And I think when I look at what M-Pesa has done, it's given dignity to everyone because everybody now can have access to financial services and everything else. But then from an impact point of view, from a M-Pesa Foundation point of view, that dignity of that child, being able to say, I'm going to school, I'm sitting in a good classroom, I'm learning things that I may not have. But the biggest thing is also, I have hygienic sanitation.
It matters a lot.
It matters so much. And these are the little things that people don't recognize. We're doing the infrastructure, but the infrastructure is touching a whole load of other things in terms of the way we live. Similarly, when you see women where they give birth before, and then you go to a facility that we have built. I mean, you should go to the one, for example, if you see Homer Bay, when we opened that, I was shocked where they were before to what is happening now. You know, giving birth in itself is not a very dignified, I've been through it, I tell you, it's not a very dignified process, I assure you. But just bringing that dignity in terms of the service, the room, the care, and then the follow-up and the assurance to someone that when I have this child, it has a highest chance to survive whatever the circumstances. I think for me, those are the things that are going to make a difference, and that's going to be the true story of the foundation in 15 years to come. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. How about for you, Michael Joseph? You've talked about the lessons that you've learned along the way. How will that inform the next 15 years, as Patricia puts it?
I'm not sure. You know, I think this is the beauty of the of the trustees and the foundation, the way we work. Who knows? Yeah. There's nothing. You know, there's no specific thing that I think. All we know is that there will always be a need, and you know, the government cannot fill that need. We cannot fill it. There will always be a need, and we need to see where can we be the best person to fill that need of what's out there. You know, I'll just give you just two examples. Every year we have a major incident, a disaster in Kenya, right? Drought, floods, whatever. We are always there. You always see us there. M-Pesa Foundation is always there. We will help. We will help together with the other foundations. We'll work together to alleviate that. I think I don't know what will be the future. All I know is what is the future need of the country. It will always be there. Education will always be one of the biggest things. And I think this is what we need to continue doing. Maybe we do it better, build better schools, more IT infrastructure perhaps. But it's always going to be there. I think as long as we're there helping the country, that's what we want to do. I just give you one example that makes me feel really good. I checked into a hotel, an international hotel the other day, and the guy came up to me, and he was a Kenyan guy. This is international, and he said, I'm an M-Pesa Academy graduate.
Wow.
What?
He'd gone to hotel school in Switzerland, and he was now the manager of that hotel, this international hotel. But he literally came... I don't know how to say without insulting anyone. He came from the bush, you know. You know, there he is. You know, in a suit and a tie, better dressed than me. And that's not too difficult, by the way. But still, you know.
Do moments like that bring tears to your eyes?
It gives you goosebumps.
It is amazing.
It gives you goosebumps.
It is amazing.
Do you have a similar story, Patricia?
I don't have any now, but I think mine are every time I go around to one of those projects. I mean, you know, I haven't had one that has been more the longevity. It's just, even when I attend a medical camp and just see those people sitting there, having that diagnosis, which they may never have had the opportunity to have. I remember the last one which I attended, and, you know, in October, because it was the breast cancer month, that particular time, and just seeing the faces of those women and the fact that there was despair, and you're looking and saying there's hope now, that there's somebody who's there who can help me understand the implications of this illness I might have, giving you referrals in terms of what you need to do and where you can go. I think for me that those are the stories that touch me more than anything else. Really being there and seeing the impact and people giving hope, the hope and in people's eyes based on what you're doing.
All right. Thank you so very much for helping us see behind the curtain. Well, should I call it a Shia? Patricia Ida, trustee, M-Pesa Foundation. Michael Joseph, trustee, M-Pesa Foundation. My name is Olive Burrows. As M-Pesa celebrates 18 years, the foundation celebrates 15. Congratulations. And what should I say? Happy birthday?
Yes, that's good.
Thank you.
We're happy with that.
Have yourself a good morning.
Thank you so much. Thank you.